Well, good afternoon, everybody. Trying not to kill myself up here now. Try not to do that at the beginning of the meeting. We are going to call this meeting to order and welcome everybody. I see we have some people in the gallery today, and council, you're going to get to meet a few of them now in a minute or two. We'll begin first with the agenda, of course, and I will accept a motion on the agenda as presented, moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles, to accept the agenda as presented. We don't seem to have anything outside to add. We do have one item for planning, correct? And you have two items on paper? Hey, so goes life. All right, they're for community services. Okay. I'll move the motion then. All in favor of accepting the agenda as presented with the three additions, say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, motion carried. First item on the agenda, minutes and action report of May 28th. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Are there any errors or omissions? Again, this is from the last public council meeting of May 28th. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Business arising then, and I would ask that if there's any business arising, refer to the number that corresponds with that particular item. Business arising.
I have one, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor.
Item 360, and I'm really sure if this is coming up later. I'm just wondering how our household hazardous waste day went this past week. Is that later in the report?
Yeah, we have that included in the report.
I apologize for that.
Mayor, and we'll deal with it then.
Okay. I'm assuming it went well. It usually does. So it usually has gone well for us. Any other business arising, again, from the minutes of May 28th? Hearing none, we'll move along. We have a proclamation today and a presentation. I'm going to reverse it for a minute. We have a proclamation regarding Recreation Month, and it is a municipal activity and a municipal project. We have no one here to speak to it, but I am going to read some of it into the record and affix our signature. Whereas in the city of Mount Pearl, we are fortunate to have a variety of recreation and park systems, providing countless recreational opportunities for residents and visitors from around the world. And whereas recreation enhances quality of life, active living, and lifelong learning, helps people live happier and longer, develops skills and positive self-image in children and youth, develops creativity, and builds healthy bodies and positive lifestyles. And whereas recreation participation builds family unity and social capital, strengthens volunteer and community development, enhances social integration, creates community pride and vitality, and promotes sensitivity and understanding to cultural diversity. And whereas recreation, therapeutic recreation, and leisure education are essential in the rehabilitation of individuals who have become ill or disabled or disadvantaged, or who have demonstrated antisocial behavior. And whereas the benefits provided by recreation and parks programs and services reduce healthcare and social service costs, serve to boost the economy, economic renewal and sustainability, enhance property values, attract new business, increase tourism, and curb employee absenteeism. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Mount Pearl does hereby proclaim that the month of June, which witnesses the greening of Newfoundland and Labrador and serves as a significant gateway to family activities, has been designated as Recreation Month, which will recognize and celebrate the benefits derived year-round from quality public and private recreation and parks resources at the local, regional, and provincial levels. And I will affix my signature and recognize June as Recreation Month in the city of Mount Pearl. Recreation, Newfoundland and Labrador, their slogan, recreation is priceless. That's a pretty good slogan, actually. That's a very good slogan.
Recreation is priceless, eh?
Absolutely. Council, we also have today not just a proclamation, but we have a presentation we're going to make, and we're honored to do it. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. Before we do it, and that's when you're going to get to meet some of the people that we have with us today, I'm going to invite Deputy Mayor Locke, if he would provide us some details. And Ms. Fleming, where are you? Okay, Connie, you can bring that up to the front here, I think. All right, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
That's great, Your Worship. And I forgot about this. This was a pleasant surprise. I met our two lovely little friends down back. We have Nathan Elliott and his little brother Jared. Hi guys and welcome. And this has to do with the unveiling of winning entry for our snowplow safety contest. Earlier this spring we reported that 185 entries were received from our primary and elementary students in the City of Mount Pearl's snowplow safety contest. And the purpose of this contest, as Nathan will surely know, was to create a name and a design for our snowplow that would promote safety awareness for children around a large city snowplows for safety. And this is actually similar, Your Worship, to the province of Nova Scotia's. They have Sammy the Snowplow. With the remarkable support of school principals and teachers, and thanks, of course, to Sammy, this past winter we were able to use Nova Scotia's Sammy the Snowplow promotional materials like posters, bookmarks, activity books in our primary and elementary schools to help teach children to be careful when playing close to the snow-covered roads and snowbanks. And I'm sure Nathan and Jared learned all about that in their classrooms. And now this September we are excited to advise that we plan, Your Worship, to use our own promotional materials featuring, of course, the name and design from our contest winner. And on June 5th, Your Worship, you were joined by our Occupational Health and Safety Officer and Communications and Marketing Officer, and you folks had the privilege of visiting Newtown Elementary to announce our contest winner. A very special young man in Miss Templeman's grade 3 class was the winner of this contest. And today, we are extremely pleased to announce the city's snowplow safety contest winner. And of course, he is here today with us, and that is Mr. Nathan Elliott. So congratulations, Nathan. So Nathan is going to come forth and join our mayor, and he'll be happy to assist you, Nathan, as you unveil your winning entry. So everyone here today and those on Cable 9, Rogers Cable, can watch this. So over to you, Mayor Sims.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm hoping the microphones will pick all of this up. Just want to say thank you to Nathan and to his family for coming out and visiting us here at City Hall today. Thanks to Nathan's win, by the way. Nathan really doesn't win anything, only our appreciation and thanks, but his entire class won a prize. Oh, good. And they had 3 choices of things they could have. One of them was they could have a big pizza party, compliments of us. They turned that down. The other is they could have a magician come in and entertain them for the day, and they turned that down because apparently these kids really like reptiles. So they're going to have a reptile party in their classroom, and that's going to be pretty good, and everybody in the class will get to enjoy that with Nathan. And so that's all I think really pretty good. And of course, we're going to have Nathan and his mom and dad. I don't know if you know this, mom and dad. We're going to have you back again in November, and we're going to have you return then for the official launch of the actual program. We're going to have Nathan here to help us do that at that time. Now, Nathan, what we're going to do is officially launch the name. Okay, does that work better for you if we do that? All right, what we're going to do is officially count to 3 here, and you and I will flip this up, and we will unveil the logo and unveil the name. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Nova Scotia has Sammy, and we're going to have Safety. Which is really safety without a T. But this is going to be Safety. Now, the question is Safety a boy or a girl? Nobody can answer that, right, Nathan? Nobody can really answer that. So it's Safety, the snowplow, is going to be used to promote safety around snowbanks and on our streets for our children going to and from school. We think it's a wonderful program, and we're going to be putting that to all of the schools and to all of the school children coming to our city. And Nathan Elliott is the great creator of all of this. Congratulations, Nathan. Excellent. Because the mayor is a mayor, and he gets to do all kinds of crazy things, I thought it wasn't right that the guy who wins didn't get something for himself. Would you agree? You got to agree. Yeah. So, Nathan, we've got a little goodie bag of all kinds of Mount Pearl stuff here for you today. For you to take away with you and remember the day. And again, congratulations, job well done. And this coming November, all of the school children in the city of Mount Pearl will be introduced to Safety the snowplow, and Safety will teach them how to actually be safe and avoid any harm, accident, or hurt as a result of our snow clearing operations this winter. Wonderful idea. Congratulations, Nathan, and congratulations to the department for coming up with it. It was brilliant. All right. Thank you, folks. Yeah, I think that's pretty neat.
Good job.
Now, I'm going to advise Nathan and his parents and Jared down there with them. That's right, I'm putting in the wrong password here now. That you don't have to suffer through the next hour and a half here. You really don't. If you want to, you can sneak out at this point. And I got a feeling Mom and Nan are going to take those boys out. Thank you guys very much. Congratulations again, Nathan. We have one piece of correspondence we're tabling today. It is a thank you letter from the Department of National Defense, and this is in recognition of our having recognized and shown appreciation for all of the veterans that participated in the Battle of the Atlantic during the Second World War. As they say in the letter to us, it was a hard-fought victory at the time. And we flew a flag for the entire week over City Hall. And that flag has now been named the Canadian Naval Ensign, and it is flying proudly on all of the HMC ships and commissioned shore establishments like HMCS Cabot. And they thank us for our support to the maritime and air communities as well. I don't know if there's anyone wishes to comment on it or say anything about it. Which one got to go off? It's off. It is off. Oh, the operations. Okay, so anybody wish to address this letter? All right, we're going to get into committee reports. Public Works Committee, Councillor Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. I have a number of things that I want to address, but off the top, I need to address the inquiry from the Deputy Mayor, and I erred. I made a mistake. We don't have the report. I thought we had the report here, but it was actually the bulk garbage thing that I was talking to. The household hazardous waste, Deputy Mayor, was fairly well attended, but based on our observations, and we don't have the actual volumes yet. Mr. Arsenault would normally prepare that report. Doesn't have that completed yet. But it seemed, based on observation only, that the number of cars and trucks going through that depot that as we would normally have for the household hazardous waste day, it's a mouthful, was actually lower. It seems like the uptake was a little lower than it had been in the past. We're not sure why that would be, and we won't even jump to that hasty conclusion until we actually see the volumes and see what was brought. Maybe the fewer cars that appear to have come through brought even more volume. So we'll wait and assess the data that comes in first. But we appreciate the inquiry. It does appear at first glance to be down a little bit, just based on the queues and the number of people that were coming through. But once we have the information, undoubtedly for the next public meeting, we'll have that information for you and we'll bring it forward for everybody's information. Thank you. Bulk garbage, Your Worship. This year, as we do every year, the month of May is the first collection for bulk garbage. And of course, after the long winter, the uptake is usually pretty high. We've had, it seemed this year, a disproportionately high amount of bulk garbage at the curb in all of the collection areas, and we have a number of different zones, as all members of council are fully aware. We did have some problems, and these are not atypical problems. These are problems with things that we would not normally collect, like contractors' materials, excessive amounts of building materials. But we also...
You mean like a guy with 10 hot water boilers on his lawn?
Yeah, that would be one that we didn't. We did take two of those afterwards, as far as I understand.
We did,
and that would make an allowance for a water boiler in the main floor and a subsidiary apartment. But Your Worship, you mentioned that in jest, but that's a tremendous example of obviously that's not a household hazardous waste or a bulk garbage, collectible item. That's excessive. It's 10 hot water boilers. He's collecting them and he's putting them out, probably taking parts from them. But we get all kinds of crazy things that are there. We did try, and I have to say this, it seemed like the standard that was being applied, which was a standard that was established, was being very, very rigidly or strictly enforced. And we did try to make an adjustment partway through the collection process, and we'll maintain that adjusted collection protocol going forward. It did create a little bit of angst for some residents because they were calling and saying this doesn't seem like an unreasonable amount. And indeed, it probably wasn't, but it was outside of what we had established as regulation. So what we did as we went forward with that, we tried to adjust a little bit how we implemented and applied the policy and showed a little bit more flexibility. So I think we're better prepared for the next round of bulk garbage. It went well generally. The uptake was extremely good. And of course, we all realize that if we don't take this bulk material, unfortunately, all too often it gets put in places where we don't want to see it, such as our trailways and rivers and behind fences and walkways and green areas. That's the very thing we don't want to do. So bring it out by all means. Clear out the shed, the basement, the garage, whatever needs to happen. We'll try to take everything that's reasonable. Building materials in excessive amounts, that's not what this is intended for. It's bulk garbage for household use only.
Okay, Councillor Stiles wants to.
No,
have
if
you
you have a
concluded on that point, Councillor Stiles?
Well, I don't think it's a question. It's more of a concern. The past number of weeks, I've received more phone calls on bulk garbage than almost anything else that I've dealt with in the city, because you get a complaint about one thing or another. But the past month, since we started bulk garbage, I've received, I'm going to say, well over 20 calls. I visited at least 10 or 15, 12, I think it was 12 or 13 homes that had bulk garbage out and took pictures, and I think the director was at times fed up with me and staff and with sending pictures and doing things. I also received a number of calls and from a gentleman that was out at 6 o'clock in the morning and came up on a whole bunch of bulk garbage in our pathways, and I sent the pictures again off to our Public Works Department. My main concern with this, Your Worship, is I think over the years when we started bulk garbage and doing bulk garbage, no doubt we picked up everything. And I certainly understand the concerns, and I certainly don't want our staff having, lifting any more than the required amount, 50 pounds and whatnot. But I really think we need to take another look at it. I really think we need to look at it further. And I don't certainly support building a contractor building a new home or somebody renovating a whole house. But I think if somebody, this one gentleman that I went to visit on Burgess Avenue, he had his hot water boiler that had leaked. He had 4 little pieces of gyprock and a door, and we had left it behind. So I really would like for us to take a second look, have a look at the policy, the whole policy again, and see, because we used to do this good. We used to do a really good job of bulk garbage, and I don't think we're doing it now. I really think we need to go back and have a second look at it, and that's what I would like to recommend to the committee to, before we go out to do the next bulk garbage. I know I don't want to be receiving 20 or 30 calls, and I'm sure nobody else around council does. I think we really need to look at it, and I know I serve as Avalon Director for the M&L for municipalities, Newfoundland, Labrador, and in other parts of the region, they have bulk garbage. Most of them only have one a year, but they take a broader base of stuff, and yes, it's still got to be packaged up right, and it's still got to be tied up, and it's still got to be in boxes and stuff like that. But I think we really need to look at what's happening within the region, because it's all going to the same place, and that's my concern. And like I said, I don't know if anybody else received a number of phone calls that I have and emails, but I certainly received an awful lot.
Okay,
Well, it's
thank
hard to
you.
quantify.
Deputy Mayor?
I mean, I drove around during the bulk garbage because, again, I had a couple of comments about some of the items that weren't picked up, but I mean, what our staff have to face sometimes, I mean, in some areas it's like someone opened a window and tore the gyprock off their wall and just threw it out. I mean, it was just an entire mess on the front lawn there. So I understand what Councillor Stiles is speaking to, but it's very hard to quantify as to, as to, you package it up. What exactly does that mean? Is it tidy? And then some people do package it up, and then you got people rummaging through it. I've seen that as well during our bulk garbage collections, where people go around scavenging, and so the residents may have put it out in a tidy fashion, but now it's all over the lawn because people are taking the backs off televisions, because apparently there's some valuable materials inside these big television monitors or computer monitors and stuff like that. So that's also contributing to the mess. To Councillor Walsh's point, I think we were a little stricter this time on our policy, but we readjusted. And I think in the second go-around, again, based on my drive by through the city, that we were taking most items, and there was very few things left behind. The few things I did see left behind were chunks of concrete, old fence post moorings and stuff like that people had out on the front lawn. But that's clear in the literature that we send out, that we don't take that stuff, and I don't know if people aren't reading the literature or they're just throwing it out in hopes that they're going to be taking it. But, I have no problem with having a look at the policy. But I think that our readjustment that Councillor Walsh spoke to, I think we did tighten up, and most things were indeed collected.
Thank you.
Thank you all for that.
Councillor
Oh, sorry.
Aker?
Yeah, I would. I just want to give a bit of feedback. The feedback that I was receiving on bulk garbage was that we weren't. People were putting out stuff that could be construed as contractor waste. For example, a window that had been removed from a house, but it was only one window. And I think we took that to committee, and that's the adjustment that the Deputy Mayor refers to, and I'm sure Councillor Walsh, you were involved in the committee. That was the adjustment that we made, to take the small quantities as long as they are less than 50 pounds and they're safely packaged. I would argue, back to the concrete posts, I know we don't take them, but I would believe that a 25-pound concrete post, we should be taking that, because otherwise, if we don't take that, assuming it's small, 25, less than 50 pounds, safely manageable, we should be taking that stuff, because otherwise it ends up in some trail, in some river, somewhere out there. So I think we've done a good job tweaking the policy. The next bulk garbage should go a lot easier. I know some residents, I've seen some complaints, they were a little bit disappointed that they got left behind and they had to make their own way to Robin Hood Bay. But I think the policy we've adjusted is pretty good. But I would love it if we could look at the concrete posts again, because to me, weight is weight. And it doesn't matter whether it's if it's less than 50 pounds, whether it's concrete, wood, or hot water container. If it can be safely lifted and managed, we should get it out there and get it down to Robin Hood Bay. That's it.
Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say that I sort of agree with Councillor Aker in that, it's the adjustment that we made is certainly, I think, a step in the right direction. I think it's not so much a review of the policy that's needed, but perhaps how we interpret the policy. I know that right from the start we were being very strict as to what we were picking up, but as we moved through the process in our first collection of the year, we started to maybe adapt and maybe listen to what some of the residents were saying. I think what it comes down to is the judgment that has to be used. I mean, we as a city, we have to use our better judgment. When we have a small amount of construction waste, be it some fence posts that are tied up and cut in even lengths, or be it, as Councillor Aker references, one window, I think we can maybe make allowances to accept and to collect that kind of thing, and I think our staff are now doing that. So they're moving in the right direction. When it comes to these larger pieces of contractor waste, I think this is where we kind of need to ask the residents to have a bit better judgment and take it from there.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Walsh, we'll give you back the floor.
I was going to ask if Councillor Tessier wanted to contribute to the discussion via Skype or something else. Nothing like a bit of garbage to throw it in slings. As I was said, first of all, there has been no change in the policy. Let's be clear about that. You're right, all of you are right, that how the policy was applied was slightly different than what we had applied or how it was applied before. I should say from the get-go, that's not staff's fault, certainly not the people who collect the garbage. We had how we had applied it and how we had given instruction to the people who actually go out and do that was a little more stringent, admittedly, than we had before. A couple of comments. First of all, what I was trying to say in the nicest possible way, Councillor Stolas, is that I think we have made those adjustments, and I think you'll see in the next round of bulk garbage that a lot more discretion and flexibility will be applied. And I think for all of us that will be welcome, because we all know what the alternative is. And not everybody, unfortunately, is going to make that trek from Mount Pearl to Robin Hood Bay. And if they do, by the way, that doesn't do a hell of a lot to improve our carbon footprint if you have 4,000 or 5,000 trips to Robin Hood Bay. So we're doing that. And to your point, Councillor Stahls, our staff at any level is never sick and tired of hearing from you about any issue. If you have an issue, bring it forward, and our staff will always welcome the input and graciously make the adjustments that need to be made. And I think that's what was done this time. So I actually applaud the director and his staff in making the adjustment. We're not immune to making a mistake, and I think we probably did too rigidly apply it, but we're also not too big to correct it, and I think that's what happened in this case, and I think our staff really deserves a lot of credit for making that adjustment sort of on the fly. The one thing that resulted from that, however, and I don't want to belabor this debate, is some people seem to think that it was a bit of a double standard applied because we did make that adjustment halfway through the process. So with that, and with your indulgence,
Well,
I'll
better
leave
halfway,
bulk
better
garbage.
halfway through the process than not at
Absolutely,
all.
it's never too late to make a correction or to make an improvement.
I told some reporter from the mainland the other day that what makes Mount Pearl great is that we're nimble. We can do things quickly, including change our approach to a policy, change it on the fly and make it happen the same day.
So
So
Mount Pearl be nimble, Mount Pearl be quick.
be quick. So that's good.
All good. Okay, we won't finish it. Grass and leaf collection.
Item 2.
Item 2, Your Worship. As you're all aware, we're doing a pilot project in the lower part of Park Avenue, which is going extremely well. But early in the season, and this still being early in the season because we had a fairly mild winter on the weekend, but it's improving slowly. And you're finally getting that joke now, are you, Deputy Mayor? But the grass clippings that we get, the volume of grass clippings that we get early in the season is obviously very excessive, and it's damp, it's wet. So we've gotten a number of inquiries from people, can they be part of this pilot project? And while we haven't expanded the boundary of that pilot project for obvious reasons, and the project is working extremely well, by the way, what we are doing to try to reduce the weight of the leaves, and of course the tonnage that gets directed to Robin Hood Bay, because we pay per ton, as you know. If residents put out grass clippings in a clear bag so that we can see that they're grass clippings and they'll let us know that they're doing that, we'll gladly collect that separately. And the reason that we ask for it to be in a clear bag so that we can see that it is grass clippings on the collection route. And the only other thing that I need to add, just like the pilot project, if you're going to do that so we can actually use and recycle the materials, please make sure the integrity of the grass is intact. Don't have other garbage or debris or dog feces or anything else in it. Just have the grass, and we'll be happy to pick that up as we go through your neighborhood.
A clear bag.
Clear bag, yep. So we have the blue bags for the
small.
recyclables, and we have the containers. What we don't want to have happen, Your Worship, just to explain further, is that if you put a bag in the container is fine, but if you have 2 or 3 bags and then you have 3 or 4 bags of typical household waste, you can't close the container on the bin, and we don't want that happening. And of course, if you throw garbage or leaves in the garbage, that's extremely heavy, and we're paying per ton. And every single household in Mount Pearl, all 10,000 of them, have grass clippings that they need to dispose of. So if we can help in any way, we're happy to do it and try to make that accommodation again, Lucy Stoyles, Councillor Stoyles. That's the way we do it.
Well, I just a quick comment on it.
No, it wasn't a blow.
When you mow your lawn and you got all these grass clippings, these clear bags, I don't know that they come in an appropriate size, quite frankly. I mean, the biggest ones I've ever seen we use for paper and recycling, and they're a little larger than a kitchen catcher bag. You need
you can get the large bags.
What will happen to the big orange? Can't we use the big orange bags?
Make them too big, you'll never lift them.
Yeah, well, no, you can get the larger bags, first of all, in most of the retail outlets where you get the orange bags, and you can get
big clear
fair
bags?
size, fairly large clear bags. And the whole idea, of course, is that you can see through the bags to see the garbage. And again,
Okay.
we'll be happy to pick them up.
Separately.
Separately, yes. The animal refuse bags.
We're stopping you for a second, Deputy
Just
Mayor.
wondering, those clippings that we're going to take outside of the pilot area, are they also going to be composted, or what's the plan with those? Did you address
Well,
that?
yes, I'm not sure exactly what the plan is in terms of, they won't be part of that pilot project because that's using a biodegradable bag type thing. But what we're going to do is dispose of them differently, and I'm not sure if the same people will take them or not. But we will dispose of them differently. The main thing, Deputy
They
Mayor,
won't go to the landfill.
is that it won't go to the lane.
So we're not going to be paying the same tonnage.
Exactly.
Oh,
It won't be directed to the landfill. That's the whole idea of doing it. Whereas the major benefit of doing it, I guess. The animal refuse bags, we had some suggestions. First of all, we've had these in Mount Pearl for a number of years, both containers and the bags. Branscom's Pond is one example, one of several examples where we have them, and we've regularly refilled them. But at a suggestion recently, we went out and got another dozen of these receptacles, and the animal refuse bags, they're now in the process of being distributed throughout, obvious places on the walkway, the beginning of the various walkways and trailways throughout Mount Pearl. If we need another dozen or a couple of dozen more, we'll buy them. We have the supplier. They were able to get them in 5 or 6 days, so it's not a problem. Just to let you know that those things are now there, they're available, and they will be properly maintained. The last thing I want to mention, Your Worship, is an extremely important point, and I'd like to take a couple of minutes to just highlight a little bit about this Save a Drop campaign. The Save a Drop campaign and the brochures that are developed and the electronic materials that are actually done as part of the Regional Water Committee's work. Regional Water Committee actually serves 5 different municipalities: St. John's, Paradise, CBS, Portugal Gulf, St. Phillips, and of course the City of Mount Pearl. And the whole idea of the Save a Drop campaign, which was developed, the campaign was actually developed by the Idea Factory on behalf of the Regional Water Committee. And what we're doing is trying to share common materials, because the problems that we have with water conservation and the like are common to all of the users of the system. Councillor Ledwell will talk specifically about the water conservation issue a little later in terms of some of the specifics. I wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, on water and regional services combined, we spend probably $6 to $8 million a year. But on water, we have an increasing cost that's going from about $2 million in 2015 to about $3.3 million just for that free potable water. Being facetious, of course, it's not free at all. It's very, very expensive. And there are a lot of simple things that we can and should do to conserve water. We have to try, in terms of educating our public, to treat water use differently and to conserve water and incorporate simple practices into our everyday practices at our homes and in our places of work. Before I get into some of the specifics, I just want to say that water levels are good. We're about 33 feet at the pond, at Babel's Big Pond. That's just so that you have a marker. That's about 5 feet above or thereabouts above where we were in 2009 when we had to implement the last water ban. So we're not in a ban situation. We don't anticipate with good stewardship we won't be in a water ban situation this year. But we are, while we're 5 feet or thereabouts above where we were in 2009, we're about 2.5 feet below water levels of last year. So, the importance of conserving and doing the little things that we need to do to maintain good water levels are there. Some of them are as follows. I just want to mention something by way of sharing information. Running a hose to wash your car, a running hose that you could use just long enough to wash your car, goes through about 400 liters of water. Think about that. 400 liters of water to wash your car. If you actually use the shut-off hose, the valves, and use the trigger nozzle or something of that nature, you'll save 300 liters. But you're still using 100 liters of treated potable water to wash your car. So even with the trigger nozzle, it seems like an inappropriate use of water. There are other things that we can do, short showers, the toilet, the flushing devices now that have the low flush devices, all kinds of things that we can and should do. Most of the material is contained in the Save a Drop literature, and that's simply why I highlighted. This will be going out to the households in Mount Pearl probably the end of June, early July. But the word needs to get out now, and the education piece and the attitudes need to change continuously. So it's a great campaign. We subscribe to it, buy into it, contribute to it, and we want our residents to pay attention to it because it's extremely important that we save every drop and that we do the best we can for ongoing conservation measures, some of which my colleague, Councillor Ledwell, will talk about later on. Thanks very much, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles?
I just got one question concerning the water, and that's wondering about car washes. I know the commercial car washes. I'm just wondering if we still give out permits for car washes
We do.
in the city.
We do, and they are, and there is no fee for them, but you are required to have a permit.
And they have to have an ASLA.
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just wondering.
I have a question here as well.
Deputy Mayor?
Councillor Walsh, the regional water, just wondering has anything been looked at with respect to residential water meters? I know I raised that a couple of years back here on council, and at the time I remember that I think the City of St. John's did a pilot project. They were looking at water meters for residential purposes, and I'm just wondering, has that ever come up at the regional committee? Is there any sort of updated data that you could provide on that? Because that certainly would save a drop, you know.
It would. Nice play on words, Deputy Mayor. I like it. Your teacher humor is coming through. I love it. The water metering, of course, is it's not a new issue. Many municipalities throughout Canada use water metering even for residential. As you know, we use water metering for commercial operation in the city of Mount Pearl for the most part. Any industrial or light industrial would be metered. The problem with water metering, of course, is not the cost of the actual hooking up of the homes or the actual metering of the water that's used, but it is the ongoing administrative costs. What you effectively establish, Deputy Mayor, is another utility service that has to be administered. It has to be read on a monthly basis. You have to have billing processes. So what you establish is another administrative cost for a utility service, not unlike power or telephone or cable. And of course, then when you do that, the general costs go up. So the price actually goes up fairly substantially, although the data seems to suggest that consumption drops slightly. So that I think the major advantage of metered water is that the cost of it is more fairly distributed, but it's much more expensive for everyone. But you in a household of 2 or a household of 1 may pay a great deal less than a household of 5 or 6 or 7, but you're all paying a great deal more than you would be paying now. That's the bottom line. I don't have the data off the top of my head in terms of some of the pilot projects that you referenced, but that is the problem with metering water. The general costs based on a utility service goes up, very significantly, and the usage drops only slightly.
All right, thank you. I'd be interested in seeing some of the data that you might have at the regional level because, again, speaking with some residents recently, what really galls some people, me as well, is people leaving their sprinklers on overnight when they know they're not supposed to, or people when they mow their grass, instead of sweeping their driveway, they decide to wash it down with their hose. And for an hour. So to your point, if you use 400 liters of water washing your car, how many hundreds of liters are they using to bring the grass down to the curb and then proceed to walk along the curb so that it goes down in the catch basin, And I'd like to see those data because I know at FCM one year, there was at the trade show, there was a company there selling these water meters and how that they can remotely be monitored, and it's not like the electrical bill where someone actually has to go around and read your meter. It can be done remotely or at City Hall or what have you. So I'd be curious to see, like, if you got New Brunswick doing it, I think there were some places in Ontario doing it. If it's so cost prohibitive, why would other jurisdictions have adopted it? So I'm just curious.
We'll get some information.
Sure, I appreciate that. And also knowing right now the potential strain with new developments ongoing up at Glencrest and the like, Might this watering meter be a cheaper alternative to, say, bring on Thomas's Pond or bring on another pond into the system? So I'd be interested to see if there's any sort of data analysis done on that to see what the cost-benefit analysis would actually be.
There's lots of work and study, but we'll bring it in.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to community services now. Deputy Mayor Locke, you'll have to fill in today for Councillor Tessier.
Sure. The first item, Your Worship, is the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Again, something else celebrating our youth, which we saw earlier with Nathan and Jarrett. Some more youth initiatives here. Community Services Department will be supporting again the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And of course, we usually provide canoes and kayaks for the youth for their expeditions. And we're very pleased to support a group of 31 in Mount Pearl. 19 of the youth, Your Worship, are going to be completing their gold medal under this award program, and 11 will complete their silver. So that's a great accomplishment, because this program requires quite a bit of dedication and discipline. So congratulations to all the participants in that particular program.
Mm-hmm.
The next item has to do with provincial health and wellness initiatives, grant funding. Delighted to announce that the City of Mount Pearl has received a provincial $10,000 health and wellness initiative grant. And of course, the Community Services Department was pleased to accept this. This program is intended to promote community involvement in healthy, active lifestyles. And of course, Your Worship, you would know all about this. You and Councillor Stoyles and Councillor Ledwell having undertaken your Healthy Lifestyle Challenge last year. We won't mention any winners because you were all winners, but you all commented on the benefits that you saw in your lifestyle. You all lost significant weight and had more energy and felt better. So good for you guys as community leaders to take that on. So this $10,000 grant is going to support such initiatives with emphasis.
I thought they were going to give the money to us for a second.
Yeah, well, who knows, right?
But not, eh? No 10
but
grand.
the priority is
Hold
going to
on,
be on
wasn't it
physical activity.
MHA Steve Kent won 10 grand, didn't he? He got 10 grand for
what?
losing weight. For
Oh, did
losing
he?
weight? What?
Finding balance.
It was on a show called Finding Balance.
Yes. That's
Sabrina
right, yes.
Wyatt was the host of it, and he won $10,000, right?
So,
I don't know if it was that, but he did
what's the conclusion there?
Yeah.
Well, is there any way we can get our hands on the grant, I guess? I don't know.
My question is, wisely. My question is, how's it going a year later?
I'm perfect. I'm
Yeah.
doing great.
Yeah, you're all so that's good. So that challenge
Yeah.
that challenge made a difference. So I'm delighted to see that. So anyways, that's just an information purposes.
We're going to be
Again,
very
10
aggressive
grand,
campaigners, according to Councillor Stoyles now.
So, yeah. Well, that'll help you out, won't it? Yeah. All right. So that's an information purposes. The next one, Your Worship, has to do with the law enforcement torch run.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be taking place on this Friday, June the 14th, and this is in aid of our Special Olympians. Once again, the city is pleased to be hosting one of their refreshment breaks here at City Hall. So around 12:30, 12:45 this Friday afternoon, the runners and the Olympians will be here. I had the pleasure the past couple of years, Your Worship, to bring greetings and meet these fine folks as they came down. But unfortunately, I'm going to be in the examination room at school this Friday. I have to invigilate an exam, so I won't be able to attend, but I'm sure someone on council will be here to greet the Olympians.
I'm not here on Friday.
Okay.
I can't do it because I'm the poet laureate at the Peter Zosky Invitational
Oh,
Golf
really?
Tournament for Literacy this Friday.
Oh, good for you.
So I have to write a poem and present it on Friday.
Yeah,
So there you go.
nice. Well, certainly someone will be here.
I'll be around.
Okay, we'll have someone here. Certainly staff members will be here. But I mean, it's a great event. You know, they come down, they're excited. Of course, they're winded, they're sweating, and they need the break. But it's nice to see, again, the positive energy that comes with
That's
this.
great.
So, again, just for information purposes, if anybody wants to come down and join in, by all means, come down and join us at Centennial Park here. The next item, Your Worship, is congratulatory in nature to Mr. Trent Langdon. Trent has received the 2012 Barnes Award for Outstanding Professional Development Services at the Special Interest Council level of the Newfoundland Labrador Teachers Association. This is a great honor for Trent to receive. Trent is also a member of the Mount Pearl Crime Prevention Committee. And of course, we'll remember that he was a finalist at this year's Focus on Youth Awards in the category Adult Working with Youth. So congratulations to Trent, a very deserving person, recipient of this award because of all the great work that he does with the youth in Mount Pearl. The next item has to do with the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. Talk about training and fitness. They're doing a battle fitness test along the T-Railway or the Trailway route. Again, this Sunday, June 16th. They're going to start in Paradise at their town hall. They'll travel along the old rail bed, the Trailway, and they're going to end up through Mount Pearl and down in St. John's at Symes Bridge. This run is going to be 2 hours and 26 minutes, pretty precise. But the kicker here is the soldiers involved in this are going to be carrying 22.5 kilograms on their back, which is the weight that we'll pick up for our bulk garbage, by the way, just in case we missed that. And also, they'll be carrying a service rifle. But I want to emphasize to the public, that if you see a bunch of soldiers running across Commonwealth Avenue with rifles in their hands and packs on their back, there's no ammunition in these rifles. This is just a part of their...
Should tell them this is our training to avoid amalgamation. That's what that is. That's our Army.
Not going to touch that, right?
Right, that's our Army. They're going to march to the border, right? That's There'll be no littering on the trail that day.
And a lot of people pooping and scooping that day, right? Sorry. That's my teacher humor again. Sorry, Councillor Walsh. But anyways, I just wanted to draw residents' attention to it. They should see that. Mm-hmm. And of course, our municipal enforcement officers are going to assist in this. They'll be at the Commonwealth Avenue intersection where the T-Railway comes across to ensure that there's safe crossings here. The next couple of items, Your Worship, have to do with our sporting and our fields, sporting groups, community groups, and some upgrades. It's great to see that so many of our cities' sporting and community groups are making good use of our facilities. And as we know, it's not just the citizens of Mount Pearl that use our facilities. It's many people from the region, and we're okay with that. We're all about regional cooperation here. But we've had some upgrades, and I just wanted to give a status report on those. With respect to basketball and tennis courts along Ruth Avenue, in 2012, we had the courts up on Ruth Avenue next to the Mount Pearl Intermediate. The courts were resurfaced, and they got their backboards, our nice city logos on those. And I got to say, some of the students in the schools commented how neat they looked. And but I'll ask Mr. Collins after about, they want to know when the lights were going to be turned on for nighttime activities. Has that kicked in? Okay. Perfect. Just came to my mind then. So thank you. I'll let the students know that. So we resurfaced that. Also, this initiative is going to continue this year. The goal is to resurface the tennis court, Your Worship, down there on Ruth Avenue, as well as the basketball court further down on Park next to Spruce Avenue, down by Park Place down there. So that'll be great to see as well. The city has invested financial resources into the replacement of the tennis nets and poles at our tennis complex. And of course, this investment is certainly going to enhance the facility and hopefully encourage more usage of our tennis complex down there, and perhaps encourage more people to sign up for tennis. Tennis is a great sport. For you three councillors that took on that challenge, I played tennis for 5 years down there. They had a great program. It's a great workout, and it's such a nice group down there. It's like a family that plays down there. So hopefully more people will make use of that. Good place for a racket. There you go. He's married to a teacher. Yeah. Continuing on with our status upgrades, the track at Pearlgate Track and Field was relined in 2012, and they did a great job with that. And work is going to continue this fall with upgrades to the long jump track. In terms of the Reed Community Center, we had some upgrades to the gymnasium, the basketball backboards, again breathing some new life into this facility that I'm sure the users will enjoy up there. And the last one here is the swimming pool initiatives. New initiatives at our swimming pool include the return of the Parents and Tots swim program, as well as an array of life-saving society courses to better enhance the swimming skills of our participants. And of course, they're designed to provide the fundamental skills not only for being a successful swimmer, but hopefully for these folks to go on and be lifeguards in the future. And the two that I mentioned, Your Worship, that are outside the kit,
yes.
Again, they're information for information. The first has to do with the Mount Pearl Canada Day celebrations, Monday, July 1st this year. We're going to be celebrating our 146th anniversary as a nation. So we always have celebrations here in the city. They will start 12 noon to 3 p.m. down at the St. David's Park, St. David's Field there. We're going to have family entertainment on the main stage all afternoon. We'll have a bouncy castle, some face painting, crafts, games, a barbecue, and of course the delectable Canada Day cake that's always so delicious and sought after. We're asking for a non-perishable food item for admission to help out the local food banks. And just a note to our residents, should the weather not cooperate, our rainy day location would be at the Reed Community Centre. And the last item, Your Worship, for community services has to do with our Mount Pearl City Day celebrations. So this year is our 25th anniversary of our City Day celebrations, and they run this year from July the 19th to the 21st, Friday to Sunday. Once again, the traditional events will be taking place. The start of the weekend with our opening ceremonies and the family pig roast. That's always a big hit. I'm sure we'll be carving again this year for those of us who carved last year. It always amazes me how quick that pig can go when people come out. They come out of the woodwork, and there's always 2 or 3 people that always want that little bit of grizzle. They come up and they ask for that. Because I always try to peel it off and push it, but they come up and they request that, and they like the what they call it? The crackle. Yes. So we'll have the pig roast on Friday. Saturday's family fun day at Powers
Must be
Pond
summer.
Park.
We're in the summer, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then a classic car and motorcycle show is going to take place. And of course, we end off with our mega birthday blitz on Sunday. The lineup for Sunday is incredible this year. I just want to take the time. We have 9 acts starting at 2 p.m., the last starting at 10 p.m. We have the Blue Liners, the Replacements, Ignition, Chicana, Red Line, Sean Basha and the Superstars, the Punters, the Masterless Men, and we'll end off with the Once. So it aims to be a great lineup this year.
They're fabulous.
So we're encouraging folks to
Good
watch
lineup.
out for new and exciting events, and they'll be promoted very soon. So I just wanted to put that out there for our residents.
Good. Thank you.
That's it, Your Worship, for community services.
Well, we're going to keep you on your feet now for corporate services.
Yes, a tax request. Sorry, request for tax consideration. Committee is recommending approval to exempt a 2013 business tax, and of course this is in accordance with Council's policy for non-profit organizations. We have one listed there, the Newfoundland and Labrador Employers Council. Their annual amount is $4,347.31, and I move that this be accepted as presented.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, are the invoices for council approval. We have 4 outlined there, totaling $361,247.26. And again, I move that this amount be accepted as presented.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
The last few items, Your Worship, have to do with the upcoming municipal election, scheduled, of course, for September 24th. The public is encouraged to check with the city's website for information about the voters list, candidate information, and any other details about the election that they might wish to find. It's also noted, Your Worship, that these cards here will be forwarded early in July to residents, and we're asking residents to check on the website on the voters list to ensure that they are on the voters list. And should they not be on the voters list, to notify the municipal election office to make sure that they are on the voters list. Again, the election is September 24th. And the last 3, Your Worship, for me, also are involved or tied into the municipal election. And they all require a motion of council. The first is the appointment of an alternate returning officer. In accordance with the Municipal Elections Act, council is required to appoint an alternate returning officer to perform the duties of the returning officer in the event that the returning officer, our very own Ms. Mona, cannot perform those duties. So it's recommended that the Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Jason Silver, be appointed the alternate returning officer for the 2013 municipal election, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question, comment? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is Nomination Day. It's recommended that candidates be nominated between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on August the 29th. I believe that's a Thursday. And this will be held in the Sir James Pearl Room here at City Hall, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the last has to do with the advance poll. It's recommended that the advance poll be held on September 14th, 10 days prior to the election day, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And again, that's going to be held here at City Hall, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And one other item, Your Worship, before...
Question, Your Worship, or
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Aker.
Yeah,
Never
no.
noticed you there. Sorry.
No, it was a question, and I wanted to wait till after the question had been called. If somebody is out of town between the September 14th and the 24th, is that the next item you had, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, but not during those time periods, but related to that. Yeah.
If they're away for those time frames, so they can't make election day, they can't make advance polling day, is the only way to do it by way of proxy? That's my question.
Yes.
It is? Okay, thank you.
Yep. That was my point I was going to raise as well, Councillor Aker, because I had a university student who's planning to move away to attend university in the fall, and they were concerned that they're leaving at the end of August, and they asked if they could vote by proxy, but they weren't sure about the procedure, so I checked with Miss Lewis, and of course there's a form that they can fill out, come here at City Hall, fill out the form, name someone to vote for them on their behalf, and that can be done there. So I appreciate you raising it, because I was going to raise it. So anybody who falls in that category, they can indeed vote by proxy. And that'll be it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, the easiest thing would have been an electronic vote, right?
I read your article, by the way.
Well, is the municipal
Yes.
news thing out?
Yep,
Oh, it's out?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good. Very interesting.
The minister says no.
Yes.
He doesn't like it at all. But anyway, moving on. Engineering Services Committee. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship, very much. And I just sort of want to piggyback off of Councillor Walsh's discussion of the Save a Drop campaign. And of course, as he mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the water conservation order that is in place on a permanent year-round basis in the city of Mount Pearl. One thing I want to stress is this is not a water ban. This is something that is ongoing all year round. It's a water conservation order, and we're asking residents to be smart about their use of water. Especially when we get into times, as has been discussed already, where we're washing cars or we're washing down driveways, we're using water-to-water lawns. We want residents to be smart about it, use the shut-off nozzle so we can conserve water, and of course limit watering lawns to the hours of 6 to 8 a.m. and 8 to 10 p.m. on the following days as per their street address. Those with even street numbers can water their lawns on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and those with odd street numbers can water their lawns on Wednesdays and Sundays. Of course, more information is available on our city website, and this is a combined effort by all of the municipalities that are served by the St. John's Regional Water Supply to try and conserve water. So, of course, as a city, we're big partners in this, and we want to make sure that we do our part to conserve water and do our best to conserve the water supply.
So, Councillor, does watering a lawn in St. John's mean they don't use the same days we do?
Well, I would expect that there are different regulations. Certainly, perhaps my colleague,
Or
Councillor Walsh,
Paradise,
can
or do they all?
speak to that.
Exactly the same days, I think. Same days. It doesn't
Miss-
matter as long as the volume is
I guess, Mr. Randall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there is a coordinated effort in regards to the schedules for restrictions on watering of lawns and what have you. The regional water supply does tell us what days we are limited to, and they actually coordinate the days for the use of the water, because it actually is outside of, for example, certain days are busy in the mornings. They actually move it around.
Okay, so for us it's Wednesday and Saturday on even-numbered streets, and Wednesday and Sunday, not like Thursday and Sunday. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item on our agenda is an update, I should say, on our multiplex. Of course, absolutely. Every meeting we do provide an update on the multiplex project itself, and there have been some questions, I guess, raised recently as to, is it on schedule, is it on budget? Well, I can say emphatically that it is very much still on schedule to be completed summer of 2014. When it comes to cost, we're still very much on budget. We have had, over the course of the project, approximately $700,000 in approved change orders to this point. That represents about 2.19% of the entire project cost, which, as we know, is over $33 million. So at this point, we're doing very well. We've got a very strong level of oversight as provided by our Engineering Services Division. Staff have done a great job to this point in keeping things under control. And certainly, this is a very reasonable level to be at in terms of the percentage, the 2.19%. Very reasonable at this point, as we are roughly about halfway through, about 50% completed on this major project. In fact, it's the largest capital project ever undertaken in the city's history. So I think we should be very proud, and certainly kudos to the Engineering Services Division on the job they've done to this point. Of course, as we speak, the glulam trusses, the major portions of the roof are now being installed, putting a cover on the building now. So as we are so fond of saying, it's starting to look more and more like a building each and every day, and it does, as the Deputy Mayor said, it does look very good at this point. The third item on our agenda this evening is to do with a tender for the, improvement and replacement of some playground equipment. And our staff have done a review of the playground equipment throughout the city. And of course, safety of our children is very important. We want to make sure that our equipment is up to date and in good repair. So we've issued a tender for playground equipment, which closed on May 27th. You will see that we have received 2 bids. And the committee recommends that the contract be awarded to the lowest bidder, which is Henderson Recreation Equipment Limited, for the bid amount of $85,823.50, including HST, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions or comments? All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
Our fourth and final item on our report this evening, Your Worship, is to do with the tender for supply and delivery of traffic cameras. Of course, traffic continues to be an issue that we try to deal with on a day-to-day basis in the city, and we've got some of these new traffic cameras, these radar speed signs that have been installed throughout the city. I know in our school zones and up on Mount Carson Avenue across from Masonic Park, these have been pretty effective in helping us trying to control the speed of traffic. So at this point, we have issued another tender for the issuance, the supply and delivery of 6 traffic cameras. You see we did receive 1 bid, and it is the recommendation of the committee that the contract be awarded for these 6 traffic cameras to Traffic Logics in the amount of $17,289, including HST, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Deputy Mayor?
For Councillor Ledwell, just wondering, have the 6 locations for these new cameras been chosen yet, or is that something that we're going to look into? Because I had a resident say today on Richard Nolden Drive, they were going along the crosswalk there and on their bike with their young daughter, and only for a pedestrian behind them screamed, they would have been plowed. So the concern that there's a high speed going down that road there. So, and she did ask if one of these cameras was going to be placed there. So has that decision been made yet, or is that something we're going to be looking into?
I wouldn't say that the entire allotment of 6 has been dedicated to specific areas. However, I will say that at committee, we have certainly discussed that area over at Richard Nolan Drive. We have had a couple of inquiries, and certainly the discussion that we've had has centered around possibly placing one of these over there. So I can certainly assure you and the residents, Deputy Mayor, that we're looking at putting one of those traffic cameras over there. Whether or not that gets chosen, I can't commit at this point, but certainly is very much under review and very much part of the discussion.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Want to be moved from place to place, though? Wasn't that the plan with traffic cameras, to move them from different areas? These are the signs, but they still can't be moved. I thought they could be put there for a period and then moved. I know what they are, but I thought that you could put them there, and after a month or 6 weeks or whatever, I thought we couldn't move these, would we?
Not these little ones.
Still move them.
Mr. Antle?
Generally, these are located permanently. They are installed on fixed posts and what have you. We could move them if it was so chosen. We've identified considerous, difficult areas in the city. When I call it, we've got locations identified right now. We can consider other locations. We try to identify areas like school zones and what have you. We look at other locations as well and try to keep them in those areas. But they can be moved, but we had to excavate the posts and reinstall them afterwards.
My understanding when we got these, this was what I was thinking anyway, that we would put a post up on Richard Nolan Drive and one wherever else, and was only moved the machine back and forth. That's what I thought we could do if we wanted to, because they are removable, aren't they? They can be moved from spot to spot.
They can. They can be moved, but they're not as easy to move as the mobile unit that we got that's on wheels that actually gives messages and signs.
The mobile one we throw it on the back of a truck, but my understanding with these two is, and what I've seen them at different conventions and at displays, that one of the features that they had said in selling them, what I thought, that the post wouldn't be moved, no doubt, but the machine itself could be moved and used. You you wouldn't move it every week, but it's certainly, if we had a problem area, we certainly could look at moving it, and that was my understanding with it. So,
Okay, so they can be moved, but it's not our plan to move them at the moment. We're planning to permanently install them as a traffic calming feature in specific areas of the city permanently. All right, which means at some point we're going to get even more of them. Okay, we're moving on. The next committee is Planning and Land Use. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item I have is related to 7 Kyle Avenue. Bridger Design Associates are proposing a new building there, which will include a school use. This is for the, and I won't go with the acronym, and I won't say this anymore tonight, the International Association of Bridge, Structural, Ornamental, and Reinforcing Iron Workers. And what they're proposing there in the light industrial zone is a school use, which is discretionary. We went through a public consultation process, started by advertising in the media. 68 property owners, 150-meter radius were notified, and we scheduled a briefing session for May 28th, and we received no submissions and no objections. It is worthy of noting that there will be 18 more parking spaces required than the proposal you see in the kit. That'll bring it up to city standard. We'll also need a controlled access agreement because there's a neighboring property owned by the same crowd, basically at 38 Sagona. We don't want that to become a thoroughfare, so typically in that case we'll put a controlled access agreement in place. The other conditions you see there are just routine, and I'd like to move that we approve the application.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
The next item for Council's consideration is a refusal at 14 Winston Avenue. This is a piece of land that is down in the floodway, basically associated with the Waterford River. So that is the primary issue. There's also a secondary issue in that the proposed dwelling would create a rear yard of 6.89 meters when in fact the city requires 8. The guiding reference in all of this, Your Worship, is Section 48 of the Provincial Water Resources Act, as well as the city's general policy on flood risk areas. Essentially, through provincial legislation and city regulation, we limit development in the floodway or the fringe or the buffer associated with it. We limit that to non-building type structures. I don't really think, look, from a layman's point of view, to recommend we build a house in the flood zone, I think is folly. Ultimately, I think we should turn this down. We talked about it in committee, and the motion from the committee is to refuse the application. Thank you.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All in favor? Contrary minded? Carried.
Thank you. Next item is Chatterbox Daycare would like to relocate from Topsa Road down to the Piper's Mall at 7A Commonwealth Avenue. Basically, that's zoned general commercial. Daycare is a permitted use. We have 2 issues, though, for Council's consideration here tonight. The playground that we want to, or they want to locate nearby, outside of the physical structure of the mall, basically is in a nearby floodway. And unlike the case on Winston Avenue, this is a case where this is a non-building structure. You will see some, basically lay down some topsoil, some sods. You'll put a fence around it for the safety of the children. And basically that is something that our policy and the provincial government would have no issue with whatsoever. The other issue associated with this application is that play area will require the children to walk across the parking lot, which is generally a bit busy with both commercial traffic as well as retail traffic associated with the mall. We talked about it in committee, so the applicant has come back and basically submitted what they call a safe walk policy. And that includes strict supervision of the kids when they're being transported or walked from the daycare location in the building out to the play area. They will actually be putting pylons up to ensure that the walkway for the children is delineated. These pylons will be put up every day. They will be taken down every day. And also there will be a permanent sign erected in the building which will say, "Children's playground, drive slowly." And we feel that is a fairly good solution given the circumstances involved, right? The only conditions is that in terms of the play area, we want it fenced. We also do not want any additional fill put in there because, of course, any additional land that you put in the buffer causes any water to be displaced elsewhere. So those are 2 conditions, so to speak, that we've got in the motion, and I'd like to move that we approve the change of use at 7A Commonwealth Avenue.
Moved, seconded. Question? Deputy Mayor?
Did we at one time have a daycare down in that mall? Because I remember, again, bike riding along the trailway, there was a fence location behind that. So this is not a new use for down there, so
No,
that
right.
seemed to work
This
okay.
is a reincarnation of something we've seen down there in the past. And I think the motivation for Chatterbox is that the property that they're in on Topsail Road is being sold, or the use up there is changing. So they're looking for a new location. So,
Okay.
We truly need a lot of daycares in the city for our thriving families, and it seems as a central location as anywhere in the city, to be honest. Yeah.
Any other comment? We'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Carried.
Before council tonight, too, we have a development application for the Moffat Road subdivision Phase 2. This is the property that is west of Moffat Road and east of Beckland Drive, I think it's called. 23 lots comprising of Truxton Place and Wilkes Avenue. And we've been waiting basically with the developer to move ahead with this development. We've been waiting for two of the commercial buildings, older commercial buildings, to be relocated and tore down. I'm happy to say that that has happened. So now we can proceed with these 23 lots. It's in accordance with the Moffat Road West Comprehensive Development Scheme, and I think that's important to our residents who move into a new area, that if we establish the development scheme with zoning, we stick with it, and this is all in accordance with that. This approval is if council approves this tonight. The motion is to approve it, subject to, of course, maintaining emergency access. We want to ensure that until Moffat Road is brought up to city standard all the way along its length, we're actually going to close off a section of Wilkes Drive, I think it is, Wilkes Avenue, sorry. That goes from Moffat Road, proceeds in a westerly direction towards Pollux Drive, right, or Pollux Avenue. So we will not have access directly on the Moffat. We're going to bring it down, and we're going to ask that two of the building lots, the numbers escape me, I think it's 12 and 13 or 11 and 12, on Truxton will be held until essentially Moffat Road basically has been updated to the city standard. And also there's a plan in place to develop the open space, which is near the southwest corner of Truxton Place. The minimum expected right now is that it'll be sodded and topsoil, but I would anticipate that working with the developer of the property, that will ultimately become a playground for the kids, the families that ultimately live in this neighborhood. And I'd like to move we approve this development application.
Move, seconded. Questions?
Some nice sized lots here, hey?
Yeah.
Five lovely big lots.
All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
All right, the fifth item from planning is the Pearl View West subdivision and some of the goings on up there. Essentially, the subdivision we just talked about, Moffat Road Phase 2, it basically is, it adjoins the neighboring, I guess it would be part of the Beckland Road business park, that area, right? So we have basically two types of uses that converge. We have commercial general to the west, and we have residential to the east. Unfortunately, during some of the development, and this happened either through the subcontractors of the developer or through the subcontractors of one of the building owners who are in the commercial area, some of the buffer was basically removed, some of the trees. Further aggravated then by, I think, some of the windstorms we had last fall. Once you open up an area, that exposes the trees. So we've had some feedback from the residents who bought those houses. They expected that,
And they are not happy.
at a commercial,
They are not happy.
Instead of looking at a forest behind them, now they're seeing the backyard full of equipment and commercial activity. So we have a plan in place, and right now it's a draft. We will be following this up with the residents, but essentially, in terms of the buffer area, we're going to be putting in a series of either berms or fences to immediately recapture some of the privacy that these residents were looking for. In addition, we're going to be looking for tree replanting, but ultimately those trees are not going to grow up for perhaps a generation. So that's why the berm and the fence are more of a temporary initiative. We've had very good cooperation from both the developer and no taxpayer money is going to be spent on this. So we will sit down with the residents, we'll go over the final plans, and further to that, then we will be connecting a trail which goes through the commercial area and hooks up to Pollux, and ultimately hooks up back again to the open space there on Truxton Place that we just approved in that area there, right? So it should be nice when it's all said and done. And I'm just bringing that to council now for everybody's benefit. We've had some negative feedback. We will be meeting with the residents shortly to go over our plans for the area. And I'd also like to commend the developer who, I must admit, despite all the issues, has not washed his or her hands of it. They've been very cooperative.
Deputy Mayor, a question?
Councillor Aker, you mentioned about the trees are not going to grow up within a generation. Can we require that, the trees that they do plant are at a certain stage? We had some work done up at the grounds at Mount Pearl Senior High School, and the trees that they did buy were well established, so they weren't, like little seedlings starting out that are going to take a generation, but they were a little further along. Is that something that we can request?
Well, that's in committee. That's what we're encouraging. We don't want little seedlings there. We'd like to see something that eventually will have some impact, but we do recognize there's a certain amount of cost, and there's only so much soil there to take on some very large trees and put in. So we thought the solution in the shorter term, when I say the shorter term, it could be as much as 5 to 10 years, will be to put the berm in place, will be to put the fence in place. The berm will be very good at blocking noise. The fence is more of a visual thing. But yes, Deputy Mayor, I would like to see a certain height of trees put in beyond seedlings that ultimately, when I say a generation, it may take 20 years for those trees to catch up, and then maybe we won't need the berm, maybe we won't need the fence, and we'll go from there. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation. Yeah. Okay. Next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list for May 27th to June 7th, permits 28 and 29, and I so move.
Move, second. All in favor? Contrary? Motion carried.
Building permits residential are $1,330,450, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Just trying to find my way to the very last page of the agenda, although there is an item, Your Worship, outside the kit. Commercial permits for the same period are a total of $634,750, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Now, not technical difficulties, technical challenges. How fast is that system? I'm moving to a secondary report that's in everybody's kit. It has to do with a building line setback variance for a garage extension at 63 Sunrise Avenue. This is in the residential medium density zone. Essentially, the owner of the property has requested a building line setback of 7.3 meters. We normally require 7.5. Council has the discretion to approve a variance, typically up to 10%. This variance proposed here is a 3%, which seems quite reasonable. We did go through a public consultation process. We received no feedback whatsoever, and we see no reason not to approve this, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Thank you, sir.
We are up to new business. We are going to start on this side this week. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of items here. Well, actually, more than a couple. I won't say a couple because Councillor Walsh always picks me up on that. This has to do with the Neighbourhood Watch. We had a meeting, I think it was last Thursday. Councillor Aker attended, and up at the Kenmount Community Centre from our Crime Prevention Committee. Constable Kevin Foley presented, gave some great information about the Neighbourhood Watch program. We had probably 20 people out. The Crime Prevention Committee was hoping to get a few more folks out. And of course, the committee themselves are volunteers, and they went around and put notices in mailboxes. But of course, they didn't get to everybody. So it was suggested that, I don't know if we could look into perhaps on our next tax billing, if we might not be able to put something in there about the Crime Prevention Committee and what they're actually trying to promote with their Neighbourhood Watch program. At least we can ensure that it does in fact get to all residents. All households anyways. But what I did take from that, there was a lot of good points raised there. Some people speaking from experience of trying to get a Neighbourhood Watch program in place, some of the problems that they encountered. And what I took away from it, a lot of the stuff is being done, I would suggest, on most streets. I know in my area, if I'm going out of town and for the weekend or a week, our neighbours adjacent know. But the the positive to this is, and this was raised by Constable Foley, that if someone further down the street that's out of my direct contact, if their shed gets broken into, well, under the Neighborhood Watch program, there's sort of a coordinator. They're contacted, and then that's disseminated to all people on the street. So I think it would be very effective. I know there was a lot of enthusiastic people there, and I'm sure there'd be other people in the city that would be interested. So perhaps if we can check in to see if it might be possible to get that information brochure mailed out. They have a website. They're trying to get a Facebook site set up. So I just wanted to highlight that. It was well attended, and I thought it was very worthwhile to help protect our community here. The next item, Your Worship, was in the paper, I think, yesterday. I just want to highlight some of our residents who received H&L awards at the meeting in Gander this past weekend.
We had a couple.
Well, I have 4 highlighted here. First, Mr. Gonzo Bennett. He was past president or outgoing president of the Mount Pearl Minor Hockey Association. So he was awarded the Executive of the Year. And I worked with Gonzo, and I do know the amount of effort that he put in. So this is a very well-deserved award. But of course, speaking with Gonzo, he's quickly to say that he was simply the president, and he had this army of volunteers behind him. So he accepted this award on behalf of all the executive. And again, I attend the banquet every year. I coached in the system for 26 years, so I know how well organized and well run this association is. So he is very modest. So again, congratulations to Gonzo. We also had Mr. Durham Bishop. Durham was a referee when I played. I hate to say, but Durham gave me the longest penalty I ever received in minor hockey, and that was a 16-minute penalty. I won't get into why I got the 16-minute penalty, but I'll just say it was a but I did learn.
I got a feeling there's a good story there somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe you can ask Durham; he might tell you on the side. But he was given the Raybo Award of Merit. Don Kelly, with our planning department inspector, he received the President's Award for his long-time service in minor hockey. Say again? Another referee. He was a tough referee as well, but he'd always give you warnings before you assessed the penalties. Durham wasn't as patient. So, and lastly, the BF Lorenzetti and Associates $500 bursary was awarded to Damian Ryan of Mount Pearl. So again, congratulations to all those folks there. I just want to touch on it because I know some other people will speak to it, but we had a family fun day up at the Kenmount Community Park on Saturday. That was always a nice event. It was also a bit of a kickoff to our 20-minute makeover, formal kickoff, even though it's been ongoing, just to encourage people to get out. And of course, I got to mention the nice celebration that we had at the library on Saturday as well for the 25th anniversary. I know, Your Worship, you had some words, and they were very well said. I got to say, very moving words. You did a great job as always, expressing the appreciation for our current workers up there. Past workers came through. Pat Walsh was there, so it was a very, very nice event. So I just wanted to mention that. And lastly, we were talking about the election campaign, of course. The last 2 or 3 days, I had a number of people asking me if I was running, so I figured what a better opportunity now that we're televised with our friends at Rogers. So just want to say that I will be throwing my hat into the ring for the September 24th election. So I just wanted to put that out there. And that is it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Deputy Mayor, I'm confident that you'll be returned to office. You've done a fine job serving.
Oh, guys, it's too early. It's too early in the season. It's too early in the season to be doing this.
It's only spring.
Backpacking.
It's only backpacking.
Backpatting or whatever we're doing. Whatever. It's too early. Let's wait till August.
Okay.
All right.
Pearl View Phase 6. We had a briefing session.
Yes, sir, you
week.
did.
This has to do with the rezoning of some of the 32 lots, I think, up in that area. We had about a half dozen people who came to the briefing session. Of course, people come out typically when they have concerns, and I want to give the residents credit for showing up to the meeting. Of course, this is subject to a comprehensive development plan as well, where these particular lots that are under question are zoned as RSU3, which basically are small lots and no basement apartments. We had a total of about a dozen written submissions in addition to overlapping with some of the residents who came out to express their views. And since then, we've had 4 or 5, feedback, again, all essentially, I guess you would say, Your Worship, against the particular proposal.
They're voicing opposition to the rezoning,
right.
Yes.
And I know we'll talk about it in committee tonight. The only reason I'm raising it is I just want to tell the residents that you know, the feedback part of our phase of our consultation process is now ending. We'll go into a deliberation phase, but I would expect, Your Worship, either, if not the next council meeting, but the one following at the very latest, we'll be probably in a position to address that issue. So a decision will be forthcoming. The next item, Your Worship, is the Green Team. The City and the Chamber of Commerce have approval for 2 Green Teams to work within our city this year. They will start their orientation in late June. I believe they all go to Corner Brook, as a matter of fact, and they get taught things like first aid, environmental stewardship, and as well conflict resolution too, because sometimes the job that they have to do in educating, sometimes they have to use the stick a little bit, if you know what I mean, as opposed to just the honey. They'll be with us until about the middle of August or so. So we look forward to the results that they will generate. I also wanted to touch on the Neighborhood Watch program as well. I would say to any resident, the people who were there were typically people who had problems in their neighborhood. And I agree with the Deputy Mayor, we've got to get the word out that Neighborhood Watch is out there. I think the RNC have put a lot more resources into it now. It's becoming a greater focus for them. But I would say to people, don't wait for your neighborhood to have problems. Use it as a preventative tool. If you think Neighborhood Watch could work for you before problems develop, it's a way of nipping things in the bud. Not to say that a neighborhood can't be salvaged, you know what I mean? But typically, if you can nip the problems in the bud beforehand, so I would encourage every resident to be as proactive with that program as they can. Now is the best chance that we've had to reinvigorate that program, probably in the last 5 years, right? And the 2 final things, or the final thing, part A, I wanted to mention about the Park Patrol. I've been out on the trails a lot lately. And quite often there's garbage still on the trails. Could I ask Community Services if you folks could look at it? Now, I know there's structural issues with who does what work here in the city, but when the Park Patrol is out on their patrol and they're going on the trails, and Director Antle has often said to me, look, if you see a garbage bin or garbage laying around, call Public Works, and the number is 748-1028, and you know, sometimes we'll send somebody out over and above the scheduled pickup of that garbage. Because quite often, if you get a garbage can that's full, that's the one that's going to get tipped over, and here we go again. So what I would ask is that could Community Services look at perhaps using the Park Patrol in their evening reports, if as they walk on trails, if they see some, I know on the Sunrise Trail between Ruth Avenue and Sunrise Avenue, there's a pile of white insulation that's been there for a couple of weeks now. And I know the Park Patrol would patrol those trails. If they could just report it back to Public Works, maybe we could initiate, if not a special trip, maybe we could put it on their list of work for that week, right, to try to keep our trails clean. And finally, I'm at the final item, Your Worship. Like the Deputy Mayor, I'll be proud to offer my services to the City of Mount Pearl in the upcoming election. And I've enjoyed my term and look forward to serving another term, assuming the people will have me. I say that respectfully, and I want to wish everybody good luck. It's not silly season yet, but we're about to enter it. That's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aker. Councillor Stoyles.
Oh, I'm next. I thought I was going to be last today. Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of items. One thing I want to mention, this past week or last week I was out in beautiful Springdale with the Municipal Assessment Agency, and one of the things I wanted to mention tonight was that the agency gives away 2 scholarships each year to $500 each, and is any child, grandchild, ward of a municipal council member or employee of the community served by the agency, and the second scholarship is any child, grandchild, or ward of the agency employed or retired, living or deceased, upon high school graduation. And there's 2 scholarships, three. They give out 2 and then 1. So, and the deadline for that is August 23rd, 2013. So if anybody works with the city and is not aware of the scholarship, Claire Sims was an employee with the Municipal Assessment Agency and passed away in 2004, and the agency did this in his memory, and I got to say, I think we have, so far, I think they said they had 9 applications in, and there was none in from Mount Pearl, so I'm sure that there is employees and that with the city that certainly would qualify for this, so I wanted to mention that as well. I know it's sent out to, all the staff and everything, but sometimes it don't get looked at, so I like for our staff to send out another quick email to all of our employees and let them know about that. Also, Your Worship, this is getting close to the end of the school year, and by next week, I guess, school is going to be out, and we're going to have more and more children on our streets. So to be mindful of the safety, we always talk about safety around our streets, and there's going to be more and more children out on their bikes and everything. So just be mindful of that. And Your Worship, I also wanted to congratulate you and FCM. You're a new member for FCM, and I understand you were away to the FCM, and we rotate with Corner Brook and St. John's, and this is our turn. We served for 2 years, and I understand you're taking that position. The last time Councillor Ed Grant had taken it, and I'm sure you're looking forward to representing us in the province. Also, Your Worship, on June 19th, the North East Avalon Joint Council will be having their end of the year, which they'll be having their barbecue, and it's going to be at the City of St. John's, and they need to know if anybody on the councils is attending, and they certainly would like for us to let Sandra Baggs up in CBS know who is attending. I too attended the Ross King Memorial Library, and of course everybody knows the library was named after a former councillor, former deputy mayor with the city, and wanted to say he was, 25 years, so many different volunteers over the years. I know one time we had a representative on the library, and I know one of the things I did when I came here first was serve on that library, and I've met an awful lot of people like Ross King and Dave Don and Mr. Walsh, Pat Walsh, who's the chair now, and they do so much great work in our community, and I know Helen Baggs was there and so many other great volunteers, so wanted to mention that. And the Kenmount Park Family Fun Day, it was great to see Tim Hortons there again, sponsoring and giving out their mugs and t-shirts. They're certainly a great supporter of the community, and wanted to thank them again for that. And while everybody is announcing they're running, I've already announced I'm running. All Mount Pearl already have received one of my newsletters, and I have an afternoon tea planned for July the 3rd with the seniors, so I'm looking forward to that, and I will be sending
Are you campaigning? Are we done with new business now?
Well, everybody else is doing it, so I figured I'd take the
Oh,
opportunity.
absolutely.
I hadn't planned on doing it, but seeing my other colleagues were doing it, I figured I would do it, but I already took the time and had an open house actually on May 16th, and had 12-15 people at it, and heard some concerns of the people, and only glad to hear the concerns of the residents of Mount Pearl. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh?
And Councillor Aker thinks the silly season hasn't begun yet. How silly are you? I just want to mention one thing, Your Worship. That's the Brookfield Plains Castle Bridge. I had mentioned to our Director of Planning last week to just check on a couple of boats that are for sale up there. But it's just one of a number of issues or problems that are associated with the entranceway there. For those who don't know, the Castle Bridge or Brookfield Plains is actually a subdivision in St. John's that actually you enter through Commonwealth Avenue. It's a beautiful subdivision. There are a lot of houses developed there, and people have inhabited them. The south entrance to Castle Bridge is actually nicely done. It's with attractive signage, a good landscaping. They've got a beautiful wrought iron fencing there, real nice. The north entrance, on the other hand, is where all these problems are. Like there have been cars and trucks and not boats and planes, but boats today, a couple of boats there. There have been motor homes, there have been trailers for sale. It's just a really unkempt dumping area. Part of the problem, I think, is the fact that the area is very unfinished. There's no signage, there's no landscaping, it's just gravel lot, and this is into a new subdivision there. I believe part of the area where some of these things are actually parked are probably on our property, if I'm not mistaken. But the developers normally have an obligation, in fact they do have an obligation to actually clean up the areas, and most of the subdivisions actually the developers go out of their way to make it very, very attractive. Since this is in Mount Pearl, I'd like for us to insist a little more. There's got to be over 100 houses developed in there now.
There is, yeah.
I'd like to ensure that we contact the developers, contact these boat owners and car owners, and see if we can get them moved. I know that's in the works. It's already been reported to planning. But I'd also like to take it a step further. I think what's encouraging that kind of use is the fact that it's unfinished. You know, get the landscaping done, get it completed, get some attractive signage there. It is a beautiful entranceway to a nice subdivision, but it's also in Mount Pearl. And if it's going to, you know, if the residents are going to gain entrance to it through Mount Pearl, we'd like for it to be well maintained, as we try to do with our own entranceway and gateways to various neighborhoods. So I just thought I'd bring that up as a little addendum, Mr. Yeftek, to the following up on the boats and the vehicles. So if you want to make a comment, it looks like he wants to.
Councillor Yeftek, how did I do that? How did I?
Yes, Your Worship. I want to announce I'm running as well this election.
How did I do that? Director of Planning, Mr. Yeftek.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. 1 second. Your Worship, we currently have an application for that property. It is a property that is zoned for a number of uses, but we do have an application in responding to the undeveloped nature of the development, and we are going through the process. So hopefully, in the short term, we will see some progress on that. But you are correct, and just to kind of clarify for Council, the municipal boundary between the city of Mount Pearl and the city of St. John's is about 200 feet from the intersection on Commonwealth Avenue, so it's just back from there. So that whole property you see there, that's undeveloped, a portion of it is in Mount Pearl, a portion of it is in St. John's. It just seems, and it makes a lot of sense, it just seems that the individuals that wish to sell their vehicles and boats and that use the Mount Pearl portion because it's most visible as right along Commonwealth Avenue. The whole property that's there, that's that's undeveloped right now, there's actually two buildings proposed for that whole site. One is in Mount Pearl and one is in St. John's.
Yep. On that, Your Worship, I'm sorry.
I wanted to mention something to the comment. I was wondering about the other intersection, the one on Brookfield Road and Commonwealth Avenue. I'm just wondering if we can look at that as well, because I know that's in the city of St. John's, and there's a lot of storage there, there's all kinds of trucks and that park there also for sale, and it's a gravel parking lot type thing.
Mr. Mulch is there now,
yeah.
I think.
But I don't think they have a permit to be there, but there's always a car there for sale as well, or vehicles there for sale, and that's another intersection that we really should look at as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I realized there was a lot there. In fact, on the other corner is where the new Marie's Mini Mart and the bakery is, and they've done a beautiful job with that development there. So I know there's space on the other corner, but if there's not going to be sold and developed quickly, I'd like to see something done with it. The only other thing I want to do, obviously add to the safety advice for the school children, but also the very best of luck. As I drive by the school these days, or schools in generally, but particularly O'Donnell, where I spent so many years in crossing there, I think of the students this time of the year, of course, doing exams. So the very best of luck to the students in writing their exams at all levels, but particularly the high school students. This is a big deal for the students who are leaving school. So good luck to them all. And it's a stressful time for them, happy time for them as well in many cases, and for the teachers and the parents. Yeah, they're counting down. You think the students are excited. Anyway, good luck to them all, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to start this evening. The Deputy Mayor and Councillor Stawes touched on the wonderful celebration that we had up at the Ross King Memorial Library on Saturday afternoon. Certainly a well-organised event, and certainly a well-deserved recognition of a real institution in this city. I just want to say a word of thanks to the staff and all of the volunteers over the years who make that facility run. And just I also want to say that there are a lot of great programs that happen up there for children of all ages and for adults as well. So I'd encourage all residents to get up and check out what the library has to offer over the summer and as we move into the fall. It's a great resource, so let's use it. I want to make a mention of Campia Gymnastics and congratulate them on a very successful year. I know that just about all of us on council attended the year-end dinner that they had on Friday evening, and there was a tremendous energy in the room. There's certainly a lot of good things happening with Campia. You know, I was certainly in awe of the success and the accomplishments of all of the various award winners. I don't think there's any athlete that walked out of that room on Friday evening without an award, so that just speaks volumes to the success that organization has achieved throughout the year. Also want to make mention that on Thursday past, I attended an event that was put off by our Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, where they launched their new website. And it's certainly going to be a real tool for the Chamber and its members. There's a lot of great information on there. I want to make mention of a Mount Pearl company. They're called Jack, and it's John Atkins and Company. They've put a lot of work into this particular website. There's a lot of work still to be done. One of the great features of the new website is they're working on putting in place a directory of the Chamber's members. So if you're looking for, I don't know, let's say someone in carpentry, you can sort of search by that theme, in that industry. If you're looking for someone in tourism, you can look for a Chamber member using this directory in that field. So a great job's been done. I know there's a lot of work to do. The address for that new website is www.mtpearlparadisechamber.com. So I'd advise anybody who's interested in the Chamber and its members to certainly check that out. And Your Worship, far be it from me to be left out, I certainly also want to announce that I will be seeking re-election in the fall. Yes, and Councillor Walsh is going to run as well. But I will be seeking re-election. I've certainly thoroughly enjoyed my year and a half, my very brief career, but I've learned lots, and I hope to get the opportunity to apply some of that stuff that I've learned and continue some of the great work that we've been doing in the city. So, and best of luck to all my colleagues, of course, who have also announced. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next week when we do new business, there will be no talk of elections. That's enough of the campaigning. We'll all be accused of, you'll all be accused of some unfair thing, or the week after. We got to end on that note. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Aker. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.